A week ago, climbing stairs was pure torture. Each step felt like a mountain. My knees creaked, ached, and reminded me with every stride that the years had passed. It was hard to get up from the couch, and walking for more than 10 minutes left me with that heavy feeling, as if my legs no longer belonged to me. But today my knees feel different. Not perfect, of course. I'm not 20 years old, but I move with more lightness. I no longer wake up with that dull ache that used to bother me in the middle of the night, and all thanks to something I never imagined would work so well. It wasn't an expensive medicine. It wasn't an operation, nor was it a visit to a specialist. It was something much simpler, something natural, something I applied to my knees every night before sleeping. And best of all, you probably already have it at home. Today, I am going to tell you what it is. I will explain how to prepare it, how to use it, and why it is helping so many older people recover not only mobility, but hope. Because this isn't just about physical pain. It's about regaining independence, about being able to go to the market without fear that a knee will give out, about moving again without feeling like each step breaks you a little more. After a certain age, it's not about aesthetics. It's about dignity, about being able to walk with firmness, about not depending on anyone to stand up, about feeling strong again. And that begins with small acts, like tonight, when you decide to care for yourself for a few minutes before sleeping. Stay with me, because I will explain everything step by step. You don't need to spend money. You don't need to suffer any longer. You only need to know what to do and begin. And before continuing, I want to get to know you a little better. Do you also feel discomfort in your knees? How old are you, and from which part of the world are you watching? I will love reading you in the comments. The knees are true warriors. They've accompanied us with every step, every climb upstairs, every run when we were younger. But over time, even the strongest start to wear down. And you feel it. You feel it as pain, stiffness, popping when moving, that constant discomfort that appears when climbing a step or bending down to pick something up. Why does this happen? Well, imagine a hinge. When it is new, it moves smoothly. But if time passes without lubrication, if it is subjected to constant weight, or if it is exposed to the elements without protection, it starts to squeak. It loses fluidity. It gets stuck. Something very similar happens with our joints. The knees, being weight-bearing joints, that is, they support the body's weight, are particularly exposed to natural wear. With years, the cartilage that covers the ends of the bones wears away. This cartilage functions like a cushion, like a protective sponge that prevents the bones from rubbing against each other. When it begins to deteriorate, that friction produces inflammation, pain, and even deformity in some cases. But it's not only aging. There are also other factors that influence, and a lot. One of them is being overweight. Every extra pound we carry on us represents an additional load that our knees have to support every day. It's as if you were walking all the time with a heavy backpack. Over years, that takes its toll. There is also a sedentary lifestyle. Many times we believe that if something hurts, the best thing is not to move it. But in the case of the knees, it is not entirely so. Lack of movement weakens the muscles around them, and those muscles are the ones that help support and protect them. When they are not used, they atrophy, and the knees become more exposed to injury. And then there is chronic inflammation. Some people suffer from arthritis or similar conditions that cause constant inflammation in the joints. This not only generates pain, but accelerates wear and limits mobility. I recall the case of Teresa, a woman of 78 years whom I met not long ago. She told me that for years she lived with constant knee pain. At first it was only in the mornings, but then she began to feel it all day. She stopped climbing stairs. She stopped going out for walks. She even avoided leaving home so as not to have to deal with the pain. The worst part wasn't the pain itself, she told me, but the feeling that each day I could do a bit less. That feeling, that fear that your body begins to limit what you can do, is something many older people know all too well. But there is something important I want to tell you. You are not condemned to live like this. Deterioration exists, yes, but there are also ways to alleviate it, to protect it, and in many cases, to reverse some of the damage. In this video, we are going to start with something very simple. A nightly ritual before sleeping. Something that can change how your knees feel upon waking. Because even though time passes, we can still do much for our body. When I began to look for a solution for my knees, I did not want to resort to more medications. I was already taking what was just necessary for other issues, and the idea of adding pills for pain did not convince me. What I was looking for was something natural, something I could apply directly to the area, and that my body would accept without side effects. That is how I found this ingredient, castor oil. Perhaps you have heard it mentioned before. Castor oil has been present for centuries in the healing traditions of many cultures. In Ayurvedic medicine, for example, it has been used to relieve inflammation, improve circulation, and soothe joint pain. It was also widely used by our grandmothers in warm compresses, especially when muscle or joint aches appeared. And not by accident. This oil has unique properties that make it a true ally for those who, like me, suffer from aching knees. But why does it work? First, because it is highly anti-inflammatory. Castor oil contains a component called ricinoleic acid, which acts directly on inflammation. When you apply it to the skin, it penetrates the tissues, relaxes the muscles around the joint, and helps reduce that feeling of swelling that bothers so much. Second, because it improves local circulation. One of the big problems in aging knees is that blood flow in the area is no longer as efficient. That causes the joint to cool down, that the tissues receive less oxygen, fewer nutrients, and therefore repair more slowly. Applying castor oil with a gentle massage before sleeping helps reactivate circulation, wake up the area, and encourage the body's natural repair while you rest. And third, because it soothes, just like that. After applying it for a few nights in a row, you notice. It's as if the body, at last, can relax. The pain becomes milder, stiffness decreases, and moving the next day is no longer so frightening. I remember the case of Robert, a gentleman of 75 years who wrote to me sharing his experience. He told me, "I have spent years trying things, creams, ointments, pills. Nothing lasted more than a few hours. But with this oil, I felt something different. It wasn't magical, but by the third day I no longer needed to grab onto the railing to get up from the armchair." That is what happened to me as well. It is not that the oil makes everything disappear in one night, but there is something different, a relief that accumulates with each application, a well-being that is built day by day, with something as simple as taking a few minutes before sleeping to care for your knees. And it is not only about castor. Some people use coconut oil with turmeric or rosemary oil, which also have anti-inflammatory and analgesic effects. But the important thing is consistency, the habit, the contact. This type of natural care does not aim to simply mask pain, but to address the root of the issue. They help your body recover part of what it has lost over time, and they gradually return that feeling of confidence when moving, walking, getting up in the morning without fear of the first step. Had you heard of castor oil for knees before? Or do you use another natural oil at home? Share it with me in the comments. I would love to know what has worked for you. Now that you know which natural ingredient can help you with knee discomfort, comes the most important part. How to use it correctly so that it really works. Because it is not just about slathering it on, and that is it. As with everything in life, the details make the difference. So pay attention, because here I explain step by step how to apply it to obtain maximum benefit. First, when is the best moment to apply it? Without a doubt, before sleeping. Why? Because during the night the body goes into repair mode. Cells regenerate, tissues rest, and inflammation tends to reduce naturally. By applying the oil at that moment, you are helping the body just when it needs it most. Also, since you will be lying down, you will avoid moving the area too much, which allows the oil to penetrate calmly. Second, how to prepare it. If you're going to use pure castor oil, simply ensure it is at room temperature. But if it is cold, or you notice the oil is too thick, you can lightly warm it in a water bath. Just put a bit into a glass jar and place it for a few minutes in hot water. It does not have to be boiling, just warm. The warm temperature helps open the pores and promotes absorption. Optionally, you can mix the castor oil with a few drops of rosemary or mint essential oil to enhance the analgesic effect and improve circulation. 1 tablespoon of castor oil with 2 or 3 drops of essential oil is usually enough. Third, the application technique. Ensure the skin is clean and dry. If you can, take a shower beforehand or wash your legs with warm water. That not only relaxes the body, but also helps the oil penetrate better. Pour a little oil into your hands, rub them together to warm it with your own heat, and begin applying it with smooth but firm movements, always in an upward direction, from the lower part of the leg toward the knee. This helps stimulate venous return and reduces inflammation. Massage the knee with circular movements, paying special attention to the sides and the back, where tension usually accumulates. If you notice particularly sensitive areas, take your time. There is no need to press hard. The goal is not to provoke pain, but to relax. Do this for 10 to 15 minutes if you can. It is not just about applying the oil, but giving the body that contact, that time, that care we often forget to give ourselves. Fourth, what to avoid. Do not apply the oil if you have open wounds or infections on the skin, and also do not use too much. A small amount well distributed is sufficient. The important thing is to massage well, not to soak the skin. And here comes an extra tip that makes a big difference. Apply the oil, massage, and then cover the knee with a warm cloth or an old sock. Some people use a bandage or a cotton towel. The idea is to keep the warmth in the area so that the oil acts more deeply during the night. Some even place a hot water bottle on top of the wrap for about 10 minutes, right after the massage. That small nightly ritual becomes a moment of connection with your body, of real care. Do not underestimate the power of this habit. In 7 days, many people notice real changes. And it is not magic, but consistency, attention, self-care. What happens in 7 days? Day by day. Day 1. You apply it for the first time before sleeping. You don't expect miracles, but there is something different. You feel a slight coolness, or maybe a comforting warmth in the area. It's not just the substance, it's the act of touching yourself, of giving yourself a moment. That night, you sleep a bit better. Day 2. You wake up and your knees don't creak as much as before. The discomfort is still there, but something has changed. Maybe it's just hope, or maybe it's that, for the first time in weeks, it didn't hurt when you put your foot down. Day 3. You begin to notice that morning stiffness lasts less. Before, you needed 10 or 15 minutes to move freely. Today, in 5, you are already walking. You don't leap out of bed, of course, but it's no longer that painful ritual. Last night's massage helped more than you think. Day 4. You haven't forgotten to apply it. On the contrary, you look forward to that moment. You start to enjoy it, like a little nightly ritual. You realize your knees no longer feel hot from inflammation, but more calm, as if they are less irritated. Day 5. You go to the supermarket, and for the first time in weeks, you don't look for a place to sit halfway through. You walk more fluidly. The intense jolts have softened. They haven't disappeared completely, but they no longer dominate your steps. You begin to trust your legs again. Day 6. A small gesture surprises you. You climb 2 steps without thinking. A few days ago, that would have stopped you. It's not just about pain, it's about confidence, about moving again without fear, about being yourself again. Day 7. Something has changed. It's not magic, not a miracle. It's consistency. Your knees are not new, but they are better. You feel lighter, stronger, more capable. You notice it when you walk, when you stand up, when you turn over in bed. And most importantly, you realize that your body still responds. It still appreciates when you care for it. But you also understand that every body is unique, that not everyone will feel the same in 7 days. Some people will notice a big change in 3 nights. Others will need 2 weeks. And that's okay. What matters is listening to your body, respecting its pace, and not giving up at the first sign of doubt. Sometimes the greatest change isn't just in the body, but in the attitude. Because when you see something improve, even a little, hope returns. The desire to keep going returns. And that, for those of us who have suffered with our knees, is already a victory. The knees, 2 small hinges that hold up our life. You don't think much about them until they hurt. And when they do, everything changes. What nobody tells you about knees is that they don't just bear your body. They carry your history. Every step you took, every stair you ran up in your youth, every time you carried a grandchild or lifted a shopping bag, it all got recorded there. And also every fall, every sprain, every poorly executed effort. Over the years, the knees start demanding a toll. But the pain is not only physical. It's not just that pinch you feel when getting up from a chair or the creak when going downstairs. Pain seeps into your spirit, steals your energy. Aching knees take away your desire to go out, to walk, to socialize. Suddenly, you think twice before accepting an invitation. What if there is a lot of walking? What if there is nowhere to sit? And so, almost without realizing it, pain isolates you. Not because you don't want to go out, but because you feel insecure. You're afraid of stumbling. You're embarrassed that others see you struggling. And that is when you realize it is not just a joint. It is your freedom at stake. Knees are like the pillars of a building. If they fail, everything else wobbles. You begin to move your legs less, which affects your circulation. You sleep worse. You gain weight. You become more sedentary. And that small pain that seemed bearable now controls your entire routine. That's why this care is not vanity. It's not just another internet trick. It's a way of telling yourself, I can still do something for me. And every time you apply that oil, every time you give that massage, you are telling your legs, I still need you, and I appreciate you. Because when you take care of your knees, you are not just looking after bone and cartilage. You are reclaiming steps, reclaiming confidence, reclaiming independence. You are saying, I want to move safely again, without fear, without help. And that is the most precious thing of all. Because pain can make you feel fragile, but self-care reminds you that you still have power over your body, over your well-being, over your day. Now that you know the main remedy and how to use it, I want to tell you about 3 other natural alternatives that can complement or even replace this treatment if at some point you want to try something different. These ingredients have not only been known for centuries, but have also been studied by modern science for their beneficial effects on joints. The first is ginger. Yes, that same one you might use in cooking or in a tea. Ginger has very potent anti-inflammatory properties thanks to its active compounds called gingerols. When you apply it as an oil or use it as a poultice on the knees, it helps reduce local inflammation, improves circulation, and provides a natural warming sensation that soothes. You can use ginger essential oil mixed with a carrier oil like coconut or olive. You only need to warm the mixture slightly between your hands and gently massage it onto the joint. But be careful, because ginger can irritate very sensitive skin. That is why it is recommended to test a small amount on the forearm first. If there is no redness or burning after a few hours, you can use it with more confidence. Also, avoid applying it right after sun exposure or if you have open wounds. The second ingredient that deserves a place in this video is arnica. Traditionally used in natural medicine in regions such as the Alps in South America, arnica is a plant with anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and vasodilating effects. What does that mean? It helps reduce swelling, improves blood flow, and diminishes the sensation of pain. Many people who have suffered bumps, falls, or sprains know it for its almost immediate action. The most common way to use arnica is in a gel or oil form. You can apply it directly to the affected area 2 or 3 times a day, always on clean skin. It is important not to use it on open wounds, as it can cause irritation. You should also avoid prolonged use without breaks. As with everything, less is more. It's better to use it for a few days, observe how your body responds, and then decide whether to continue or rest. And lastly, the combination of turmeric with black pepper. Turmeric, that golden spice so widely used in Indian cuisine, contains curcumin, a substance with very high anti-inflammatory power. But there's a key detail. Curcumin is absorbed very poorly if used on its own. That is why, when combined with black pepper, which contains piperine, its absorption multiplies several times. You can prepare a homemade paste by mixing turmeric powder with a bit of warm water and a few drops of coconut or olive oil, and adding just a pinch of black pepper. Apply this mixture to the knee for about 20 to 30 minutes before sleeping. Then rinse gently with warm water. You will notice a sense of relief, and over the days, less stiffness and better movement. That said, turmeric can stain clothing or skin, so it's a good idea to wear old clothes to sleep or cover the area with a clean cloth. And if you notice any reaction or burning, discontinue use. The good news is that these 3 ingredients can also be combined. For example, you can make a base oil with arnica and add a few drops of ginger essential oil, or use turmeric in your dinner to reinforce from within what you apply on the outside. Applying a natural oil to the knees can make a difference, yes. But if you truly want to see a lasting change, you need to support that external care with daily habits that strengthen the well-being of your joints from the inside. The body is not a machine divided into parts, it is a connected system. What you do during the day, what you eat, what you drink, all of it influences how your knees feel. The first key habit is gentle movement. We're not talking about running or doing heavy squats, but exercises that help keep the joint active without overloading it. A light quadriceps stretch, for example, upon waking and before going to bed, can improve your range of motion. Walking 15 minutes a day at a comfortable pace helps stimulate circulation without overburdening the knee. The second fundamental tool is hydration. Many people don't associate water with joint health, but it's essential. The synovial fluid, which acts as a natural lubricant between bones, depends on hydration levels. Drinking between 6 and 8 glasses of water a day keeps not only the skin and organs in good condition, but also the joints. A dehydrated knee is stiffer and more prone to inflammation. The third pillar is nutrition. An inflammatory diet can worsen any joint pain. Excess sugar, refined flours, ultra-processed products, deli meats, and fried foods. All of these favor systemic inflammation, which manifests especially in the joints. In contrast, foods like garlic, turmeric, ginger, red fruits, oily fish, or chia seeds help reduce that inflammation from within. Last but not least, rest. Sleeping well is not a luxury. It is a necessity for the body to repair tissues, reduce inflammation in sensitive areas, and regenerate cartilage. During the night, if the body finds itself in a calm, comfortable environment and gets enough hours of deep sleep, it activates natural processes that are impossible during the day. One night of poor sleep can make the knee wake up stiff and more painful the next day. In contrast, a week of restorative sleep can turn around the way you move. So yes, applying an oil can help you. But if you combine it with mindful movement, water, good nutrition, and good rest, that effect multiplies. Do you already practice any of these habits? Which one do you think you need to incorporate? I'd love to know. There are pains that seem small, almost insignificant, but that end up changing a whole life. Knees that hurt not only prevent you from walking comfortably, they also take away your security, your confidence, and, little by little, your freedom. That is why taking care of your knees is not a luxury, nor vanity. It is a way to reclaim your path, your rhythm, your life. And the most powerful thing of all is that you don't need impossible formulas or painful treatments. Sometimes the most effective is also the most natural. An oil, a touch, a few minutes of dedication each night can do more than you imagine. They can restore your lightness, your balance, and that sense of I can that you thought you had lost. Don't wait for pain to stop you completely. Don't wait for climbing a staircase to become an impossible mission. Listen to your body. Respond to it with love. Give it the care it needs before it has to ask you for it. And when you apply this oil at night, don't do it just as if it were another routine. Do it as if you were speaking to yourself, as if with every movement you were telling your legs, "Thank you for supporting me all these years. Thank you for every step. Thank you for still being here." This small gesture may seem simple, but when done with intention, consistency, and affection, it can make the difference between living with limitations or walking with freedom. Tell me, are you going to try it tonight? Have you ever cared for your knees with something natural before? I'd love to read you in the comments. And of course, if you found this content useful, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with someone who needs it. Because maybe a simple natural blend can change more than just knees. It can change an entire life. See you in the next video.